Welcome back, everyone, to Rising Warriors Rachael Kulei. I am Nabimia Dachinup, woman that travels with the stars. I'm an enrolled member of Northwest Spanish Shoshone Nation. And on my father's side, I also come from the Nez Perce tribe over here. So today, I have our beautiful sister here from Portland, Oregon, that Squiemphen-Yazzie, and I reached out to her, well, through inspiration, and as everyone knows, or most of you, I am inspired to bring on each person that I bring to the podcast to speak. And so today I wanted to bring on our sister over here. And it's kind of interesting because we were talking beforehand about when I was scrolling through Facebook and I kept seeing her, and then I hear creators say loud and clear, like, you need to reach out to her and have her come on the podcast. And so I reached out to her, and we set up this date, and then all of a sudden, like, I seen a couple days ago, she has a campaign that she's doing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And so it ended up being in the same day today. So it's like, I just kind of like looked up and I'm like, Creator, you work in mysterious ways. And so I'm excited to have our sister on today and support her and, the movements, the Indigenous movements that are happening and that you're a part of and you've been a part of. I've been watching you for years. We were both in the lead cohort for NAIA, but we were in separate years. I think you were in a year before I was. And that's kind of where we connected, was through the cohort at NAIA. So I'm excited to have you on today, sister. Welcome. And go ahead and let's introduce yourself and your people, and we'll just take it away.
Yay, thank you so much. First, thank you for having me on. It's such an honor. I've been a fangirl of your podcast since, the beginning of the year. So thank you for creating this beautiful space, first of all. Yeah. And I'll just, go into introducing myself. Ya'ate she'e, Amanda Squiemphen-Yazzie Yenishya, Wasco do dene nishlet, Wasco do Yakama e deshishche, Tachini bashishchin, kia ani e dashinale. So in English, in translation, for those who don't know Dene, I said, hello, my name is Amanda Squiemphen-Yazzie. I'm Wasco and Navajo. My maternal grandfather is Warm Springs and Yakama. I'm born for the Red Running Into Water clan, and my paternal grandfather is the Towering House clan from the Black Mesas of the Great Navajo Nation. I am the daughter of Edison Yazzie and the late Priscilla Squiemphen-Yazzie. My maternal grandparents are the late Earl and Rita Squiemphen of Warm Springs, Oregon, and my paternal grandparents are Pete and Polly Yazzie from Low Mountain, Arizona. And I currently reside on the traditional homelands of the Chinook and Cowlitz people, which is presently known as Portland, Oregon.
Yes, the beautiful Portland.
Yep.
So tell us a little. So for those that, we don't know who you are from the beginning. Like, who is Amanda? Tell us your story. Like, where have you gone? What have you been doing? Because you have your bachelor's, you've done some good studies over here, and you're doing some amazing things. So just let's go from the beginning. Just start from wherever you want from the beginning and your story. We're gonna do story time.
Yay, story time. No, so I'll say I grew up on the Warm Springs Indian Reservation, and I grew up on my family's cattle ranch. My sister and I were third generation cattle owners, and that was my life. I grew up on a ranch, so it's like waking up, we feed the cows, and we go check on the horses, we go check on the animals, and that was really my life growing up. On the weekends, it was working on the ranch, whether it was fixing fences or going and riding horses out to the woods to check on cows that may have roamed out there. So that was my life growing up, and I loved it. And if we wasn't working on the ranch, we would was either playing basketball, playing volleyball, or doing some kind of fundraiser or community outreach. So we were really close with my maternal grandparents, the late Earl and Rita Squiemphen, and both of them were very active in the Warm Springs community. They did a lot. They did a lot for our community. Both of them served on tribal council. So when it came to, being a kid of very active people, you automatically get involved in their spaces. So growing up, like my sister and I have like a memory of like sitting at this big round table with like all these adults, me and my sister sitting next to each other, and our feet just dangling off the chairs. And our parents, I remember them telling us, you guys have to go in here and listen. And, us being little kids, we were like, okay, we'll come in and listen. And, it was like their way of training us to be in these meetings. And afterwards they would say, what did you learn? And, us just trying to repeat what we heard, but not really having a clear understanding of what it was. So that was really my childhood. And at the age of 14, actually, this is kind of taking a turn. This is where like a major impact happened in my life was at the age of 14, my mom passed on and my sister was 18. So we were really young. And that was like 2 months into my freshman year of high school. So when this happened, it was just like a big, like, whoa, like, what is this? Like in my mind, I grew up with a very supportive family. I was very privileged to have both of my parents who were super loving and supportive in like anything we did, and grandparents. Like we always had someone checking on us, like whether it was our grades, whether it was like how we're doing in school, how's our friends doing, what's our friends up to, like they always just cared about what was happening in our lives. And I consider that a major privilege on my part, because I didn't have a lot of friends who had that. And that's just the reality for some folks, which is okay too. So going to my back to my mom, at the age of 14, she passed on. And when she passed on, also another privilege, we was able to be with her in her final time. So we was able to like have words with, like, we were able to talk to her. She was on life support, so she could hear us, but she couldn't like respond. But we was able to talk to her, and we was able to share words with her. And some of my final words was that I would graduate college for her. I mean, I dreaded saying it, of course, but I was like, Mom, I have to follow through. Yeah, I was like, Mom, I'll graduate college for you, I guess, and I was like, I'll make you proud. And, it was like this whole, like my whole childhood on top of that, like, just all of the teachings that were instilled within me, like from the ranch life, from being a granddaughter and a daughter of like really, very community centered people who love community, being centered in that as a child, and then getting up to this point, that all came with me too. So that's where my love with community came, my passion for education, and of course, making those final promises to my mom at like when she was passing on to her next journey is what continues to stay with me. So that's kind of what got me through like my bachelor's. I'm starting my master's soon, and I'll be expected to graduate in June. Yeah. So a lot of my education. Thank you. I'm so excited. And so a lot of my education and like stuff I do, it's because I do love my community. I love being part of this world where community is centered. Like there's so many beautiful voices, beautiful lived experiences in this world. And I'm like, yes, let's bring it all, like out here in East Portland, like there's over 77 different languages spoken. And just think of like all the different lived experiences within just this little area alone, where like that's super close to me. So I'm just really amazed by community every day, and like just the ways they continue to show up for one another, whether that's like physically, emotionally, just in any sense, like we just show up for each other. And that's what I love about community. So that's where my love for like youth, for BIPOC people, for LGBTQ, for folks with diverse abilities, like I'm like, we all have a lived experience that can be brought anywhere with us. And your story matters, your lived experience matters, and your voice needs to be heard. So that's why when I said earlier that I really appreciate this podcast, it's because you are bringing these lived experiences forward, and that's something I'm really passionate about too. So I'm like, wow, this is so crazy. Like I just kind of been watching. I forget their name, but a few weeks ago you were on live. I forget who it was, but I forget their name. But I just remember watching that, and I was like, wow, what a cool podcast series.
Yeah. Was that a woman? A Cherie?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's my cousin.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Are they from here?
She actually lives 5 minutes away from me.
I love that. I love that so much.
We run into each other all over the place without even communicating. We'll show up to a spa and we'll both be like sitting there like, I guess we're on our time together today.
Aw, that's so cool.
Yeah. So
I love that.
I appreciate it because the community is so important. And I was fortunate to grow up like that too. So my mom was, my mom, Rochelle Nielsen. And so, she's been very involved in the community.
Yeah.
My grandma was always involved in the community. And so it's ever since I was little, it's that same feeling of, community service, showing up for our brothers and sisters. And so like for me, I grew up here in Southeast Portland. So here, home is actually here in Portland. But actually, if I say home, it's going to be back in Fort Hall in, Wasco, Utah. But so that's one thing, like I was like watching you and the passion and the community and everything that's going on right now it's just amazing. And I think that we sometimes take it for granted. And I think that it was like with COVID that really opened our eyes, especially as, the Native community, of that circle that we had. And, how we all have like almost like this disconnection in a sense, because in all Native communities all over, it's like, we're used to the circle and the family and being together. So I appreciate what you're doing too.
Yeah, thank you. And, just kind of going back to that circle, it's like that circle's still here, but it's showing up in a different way, right? So like,
right.
I think about a lot of like mutual aid, and like, for so long, this circle has only been like Indigenous people. And, us like trying to decolonize the movements, decolonize like our own lives. Like now with us being in COVID, we're able to spread this out to so many. And you see this way of life showing up in like so many local movements and so many different like ways of organizing. And it's cool when you see people like calling one another in or out and just being like, hey, that's not how we do that here. So let's center the voices of the folks who are most impacted, and let's lead with a good heart. Like we're not going to bring this kind of like how do you say it? Like, I don't want to say bad medicine, but like, we don't bring this kind of attitude to this circle. So I think that's really cool how we're able to, like, even despite COVID, like we're able to make it happen and still continue our way of life, but almost in a virtual way, I guess.
Yeah. And I know it's kind of scary at first too, because it's like we're going into speaking with other people too and leaders, and we're like looking at the elders like, what do we do? Is this like, is this okay? Like, are we going to get in trouble for being online and talking about these things? But yeah, it's like spitting in, like pouring out of us. It's like, no, it's time to talk about these things. It's time to bring the awareness. It's time, we're in a new transition and healing, and we have to, in order to heal, we have to address the traumas, and on both sides. And, it takes patience, it takes, unconditional love, and
Yeah.
it's going to take a lot of work on both parts, for us to really mesh and grow. And like what I saw one day was like blossom as a rose, where we can all come together and in that
Mhm.
beautiful way in that walk. So what got you down into the education route that you went through? So
Um,
like so after your mom passed, so what were some things that you went through, to really push yourself, because that can be challenging, to you lose, because I lost my big mom, my grandmother, and so I there's that moment where, like I promised her things that I was going to do, but then like I had my struggles of like going through these battles of actually making them happen and then not wanting to make it happen. So like what were those, for those that go through these things, because sometimes we don't get to hear the challenges that we go through in the in between stages, to the where we get to where we are. And sometimes people dismiss you and, we go, well, she had this good life, and yeah, she lost her mother, but that could be a huge thing and factor in your life, especially when you're really close with your
yeah.
parents. And what were those tools and what were those things that you had to do to keep that voice alive, to keep that spirit and that drive, and to keep going and not give up?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a big question because automatically, I think of like the times I got kicked out of class in high school for being a
Huh.
disruption. I think about the times when I, talked back to a few of my teachers. I think back to the time where I was labeled as like a problematic child. And I remember specifically, this was so funny because I remember one time specifically, I, talked back during a parent teacher conference, mind you. I talked back to one of my teachers, and my dad didn't say anything in the moment. But as soon as we got in the car and was driving home, like he did not say a word to me, and he was silent for like, I think, gosh, probably 15 minutes, because my school is like a good hour away from my house. So
Uh-huh.
we had an hour-long drive home, and I remember he was silent for like 15 minutes, and like in my mind, I didn't feel like any guilt or shame at that moment, like
Uh-huh.
until he started talking, and he was like, this is not how we raised you. Like he didn't raise his voice at me or anything. He was just like, this is not how we raised you. You do not talk to your elders like this. And like he gave me this really long like speech, and it was like all the way home, it was like a 45-minute talk,
Uh-huh.
and like it was just like, this is not how we raised you. And I think I was like 15 years old, and I remember my mom's 1-year anniversary was coming up, and he was like, you have to remember the promises you made to your mom. You have to remember what your family instilled in you, what your grandma and grandpa instilled in you. You have to be better, like you have to try harder. And honestly, a lot of times my dad was the one who was having these conversations with me, my sister, my grandparents who were still alive at the time. And it was like these conversations, like just like having that realization of like, wow, I really have to push on and I have to go hard. So a lot of these teachers who like kicked me out of their class, I actually became like really close with them, and I navigated towards them to help me through school. And through my whole like public education time, I was in those advanced classes. Like I
Mhm.
got placed into them, and most of the time I was barely passing. I was like getting like C's and B's, like, and like I was like, cool, this is okay. Like these are advanced courses and I'm doing the best I can. And
Mhm.
it just kind of turned into this thing where my teachers and my community, my dad, my sister, my grandparents, they all rallied around me, and they were like, yeah, Amanda needs to do better. She can do better. She's capable of it. And again, it kind of goes back to like this privileged sense of like, I had that in my life. I had community rallying around me. I had my family rallying around me. Even my friends, a lot of my close friends, like who are also like sisters and cousins to me, but you know, we were friends growing up. Their families, when my dad was busy, because you know, he worked a full-time job. He did do other stuff on the side. And they would take me in for like, you know, days, weeks at a time, and just be like, yeah, come stay with us. Like, I don't know if the Smith family's watching, but I spent a lot of time at their house. And you know, one of my good friends, like they're my cousin. Their dad is actually my mom's cousin. So I spent a lot of time at their house too. And it's like just being in that community space and being with other kids. Like there's so many families who like took me in and literally would be like, I'd be right at the table. They're like, Amanda, do your homework. Amanda, do this. So like, it's like every point of my life, there was somebody always on me to do better. And it's like having that wraparound care and people who were like constantly not yelling at you, but just reminding you of the importance of education is what brought me to this point. And I always tell people that, like, in my whole education career, I'm like, there's always someone like on me about education. Like even with my master's, I remember right after I graduated with my bachelor's, one of my friends who I considered a mentor, like growing up, because they always checked in on me during high school. They were like, it was like not even hours after I graduated. They're like, so when are you getting your master's? And I was like, oh my God.
Love it. You're like, you don't even get to finish. You're like, next. And when are you getting your doctors now? You got your
Literally.
master's, but now when are you getting your doctors?
Yeah, so when I got into my master's program, I was like telling my dad, and he's also, when are you gonna get your PhD? And I'm like, oh gosh, okay. And you know, it's like this is the kind of circle that I want to be able to give to youth. So like with youth in my family, I, you know, right now I'm like super busy, but like I hope to one day give back to a lot of youth. So during the pandemic, actually, I've been able to speak with like youth around the world because of, you know, just being in these spaces. Like, for example, you've seen me, there's other people who've seen me, and they see my passion for wanting to engage with youth. So there's been like, I think four different times where I've been able to speak with youth. And because we are in a global pandemic, everyone has to get on Zoom. So I've got to speak with kids who are in like New Zealand and Australia and, you know, like just different parts of the country, and engage with them. And one of my proudest, most happiest moments was being able to speak with students at the Navajo Preparatory Academy in New Mexico. Yeah, so that was really neat. And there was like, gosh, I think 200 or 300 students on there. And I was just like, wow, I'm like, I'm probably your relative, like to some of you, and just speaking love into them, you know, like you're beautiful, you're brilliant, you can do this. So, yeah, speaking with youth and like engaging with youth has always been like a passion, because I look back to the time when I was labeled a problematic kid, and I'm like, I had people to lean on, and I want to be that someone for students to lean on. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I know I like went full circle for your question.
No, that's good. No, yeah. I love it. I'm like, keep going, girl. I'm like, there's more. So because that's the thing is like that a lot of people don't understand that is non-Indigenous, is that that's one thing that as Native communities is we support each other.
Yeah.
And you know, it takes a village to raise one child. It doesn't just take parents to raise a child. It takes a whole village to raise one child. And we see that as Indigenous and what that is. And so, you know, we call each other sisters, but you know, we're not really sisters by blood, but it's because by relation and how we talk, the age level and things. Maybe if you were older than me, then you would be my auntie, you know, and I would be your niece. Or if you were even older, you may be my grandma, you know, and I may be your granddaughter. But it's just whatever that relation that gets built between each member. So it's like a lot of people are like, how many sisters? I thought you only had one sister. And I'm like, okay, I have one blood sister, one blood brother, but I have many adopted siblings, and my mom has adopted I don't know how many brothers and sisters. So I'm like, I have adopted brothers and sisters that I don't even know and that I've never met, you know. But it's the community in that sense, and it's so important. I got to see this when I was helping with the Title VII program here in Vancouver, because my mom was in charge of that for many years. And we were very oriented in the community. And, you know, when one child was out of line, there was the elders, and my grandma was there. And then there was, you know, we had a couple different elders. And so the parents would actually take the children and set them down with the grandma and set them down with the elders and say, this is what's going on. This is, you know, this is what's going on at school. And it wasn't, you know, and this is the other thing, is it wasn't in an ostracizing way of like, they're being bad and they're doing this and they're problematic or anything like that. It was coming with that love, so that the child knows too that, you know, we're coming with love and you're not a problem. We just want to help you. We want to help you grow. We want to understand what's going on with your spirit so that we can help your spirit, because we understand when there's chaos and there's things happening and we start acting out, something's wrong with our spirit. Something's off. And so, you know, that's when those elders, and we would take them to the elders and my grandma and set them down and, you know, talk with them. What's going on? Why are you acting out this way? How can we help you? How can we support you? And then, you know, bringing in people like yourself or me and different leaders in the community. And this is how we can help this child. This is how we can help them grow and move forward and, you know, get out of this genocide that we're in, you know, generational trauma of, you know, staying depressed and staying in, you know, the drugs and alcohol and just in the world of no will to, I call it. And, you know, and you know, igniting that. And so that, you know, for those that don't understand, like, it's really important. And I don't really see, like, I see this with other Indigenous cultures, but I really don't see this with the white cultures as, you know, as the community. But I see them searching for it. And so that's the other thing that I love with this podcast is, you know, it's like what we were talking about earlier about, you know, everybody kind of coming together now, and it's like this new old way. And, you know, I was always told that one day that it would be the natives that would come together and blossom as a rose and come and bring back the old spirit way of tradition and teaching in that community and that love. And then when that would happen, it was like the world would come to and cleave onto that way, because it's back to the soul essence of the spirit, you know? And so it's like, I just wanted to share that piece because my experience too, because I understand that, and I've seen both sides, and I know you have too, of you know, those that didn't have that support and things. And if I really think about it, it's my white friends that never really had those supports. And if I really look closely, my native Indigenous community has always had that support in some way.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too, is that where I want you to talk now too is because the community called you. So she is running for the campaign for Multnomah Education Service District. And this is the other thing that I wanted to talk about with the movement and things, is that when we as people see someone in the community that is doing something, we hold that person up and we're like, okay, we need you here. So we're going to hold you up and we're going to hold you here and we're going to support you because we see your value. We see your voice. We see what you're doing. And we need people like you in the forefronts, and in this battle, if you want to say, of taking things back in the right way, and um blossoming, and retransforming, and breaking down the old ways that don't work, and the colonized ways, right?
Yeah.
So what I think is beautiful, what I want to talk about is like how did that come about for you? Because I know the community supported you, and it was the community that called you. And I see this with other Indigenous leaders that are being called into different campaigns and different leaderships in the politics, and I'm really seeing, it's the community that's supporting, it's the community that's pushing. It's not, I decide that I wanted to do this, and I decided, and I woke up one day and that this is what I'm going to do. And like I chose this for myself. And so I just wanted to kind of like talk on that part too, because it's a beautiful thing when you go into a campaign and you have relatives actually holding you and supporting you and moving you. And it's almost like I'm watching you. It's like this water, you just got put onto this river, and you're like, all right, like but they put you in a tube, so it's not like you're like going through the rapids. You're on this tube, and it's just going fast, and you're like, and it's just smooth, but you're just sailing, and everybody's just like pushing you, like go, go, go.
Right.
So how did that start? Like, how did that come about and happen? And what kind of pushed that into that? Because I saw you co-wrote a kids book on voting, so I know that probably has something to do with that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, we could reverse a little bit and just talk about like how I even got to this point. So,
Yes.
I mean, there's some, like I said, there's so many community voices that, matter, and so many lived experiences that need to be in these spaces, that need to be heard. But at the same time, this is still a very, how you say, like, Western way of life, right? So politics is very much like centered on white supremacy culture. We lead with this idea of that we have to go into this space and be a certain way. We have to go into this space and lead a certain way. And it's been like that, like since government was established, right? So women are just now getting ready to run, but women of color is like a whole nother thing. So recently we've seen a rise of women of color running for public office. And so when it comes to this sense, I mean, I never seen myself running for public office. I've always been that kid who was like, man, I hate politics. Like, I can't deal with politics, But as I got older, I realized how important it is. And it's actually my education that steered me in this direction. I had a mentor in the social work program that I was in, and they shared this program with me. It's called Politicorp. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was with the local, presently known as Next Up Oregon, but previously known as the Bus Project. And it was a 10-week long program where we was able to basically fast track every single, like, how to do a political movement, how to run a campaign, how to do this and that. And it basically was like a boot camp on how to train us to be good organizers, good community organizers. And it at first, I was really, I was like, cool, this is awesome, but I don't see myself doing this, until something came to me, and I was like, I need it was the 2018, coming up on the 2018 election. And something came to me one night while I was like resting, and I was like, I need to register people at my home. I need to register voters in Warm Springs. So I had this brilliant idea to go and put this on my plate on top of everything else that I was doing. but it paid off. And, I'm very thankful that the bus project at the time was like, yeah, we'll support you in doing this. And, I of course had to advocate to them, but I also got some of my colleagues, the other fellows, to come with me to Warm Springs. Like, we literally had all this stuff, all of the voter registration stuff, all of, like the swag for the bus project, and you were able to get so much. And honestly, it was this one event where, mind you, right, I had the whole, I spent like I think it was like 8 weeks I spent doing volunteer outreach, doing like different stuff to advocate for certain things. And every time there was like barely any volunteers. It was so hard to get volunteers. It was so hard to get folks registered. But as soon as we went to Warm Springs, like, I think I advocated, I reached out to other organizations, and in total we had 4 organizations show up. We had 15 volunteers, and in that day, I think we registered I think it was like 55 people, but of the people we registered, 50 went through to the Secretary of State office, because there was like 5 that was invalid. But it was like this moment, I was just like, wow, we made this happen, and it's possible to organize a community who wants to be part of this. But in total, we probably talked with over like 200 people that day. And it was just such a powerful moment for me. So ever since then, I was like, wow, I love community organizing. This is what I want to do. And, fast forward to all the other stuff that has been done since, like, it just kind of led me up to this point. And I think, folks in my community in Multnomah County see that, like, they see that I can, like, and I'm not bringing myself, I'm bringing my community. Like, as an Indigenous woman, like you said, we don't just travel by ourselves. We don't go places by ourselves. Like, it's weird if we do. And so when I go into different movements, different spaces, I'm bringing like my sister, I'm bringing my partner, I'm bringing their friends, I'm bringing, my sister's friends and my cousins, like when they're here and there, because, cousins come through anytime.
Yeah.
And it's like we just all hop on board, and at the same time we're able to talk about this kind of stuff that's impacting our lives day to day. So when it came to the Multnomah Education Service District, like, I filed on filing day. So when I say filing day, I mean I filed like very last minute that we could file. Everything just happened to fall into place when I decided to file, because I was asked months prior, but I, at the time, wasn't able to make anything happen. So when it came to filing day, I was able to put my name in the hat, and I was very thankful, because I before have been asked to run for state representative. I've been asked to run for different positions, but it didn't feel right at all. Like, I was like, no, I'm not ready. Nothing is in place right now. And so when it came to MESD, I instantly thought about, yeah, this feels right. Everything just literally fell into place on filing day. And I was like, wow, I'm going to do this. And, yeah, everything just fell into place. So in my mind, I was like, yeah, Creator's looking out for me. Creator's looking out for this move that I'm about to make. And he's telling me that I can do this, and we're going to clear this path for you to make it okay for you to do this. So now Election day is May 18th. So we have like about 6 weeks until Election day, and my team and I are doing everything we can to make it happen. So tonight I actually have my campaign kickoff, where we'll be hearing from a number of speakers, such as Brent Florendo, who's an elder who will be blessing this space, blessing the kickoff, and the start of this campaign. So I'm really excited for that, because like I said, we're decolonizing this space. We're going to do it in our way, and we're going to make it Indigenous as possible, right? We're gonna we're gonna kick it off good. So I'm really excited and honored that Brent offered to be here, or to show up. So Brent's gonna be there, Counselor Eddie Morales, Karina Miller, MESD Director Katrina Dowdy, and the amazing Samantha Gladu. So we have these incredible speakers and folks lined up to kick it off with us tonight, and it'll be at 5:30 on Zoom. So yeah, feel free to RSVP or join us, or just watch.
Right, I'm excited to watch. I saw the lineup. I was showing my mom the lineup yesterday. She's like, she's got some good people coming on. Like, you're doing some good thing, like amazing things. I'm proud of you, because I've been watching you, and I watch, because we have our lead cohort group, and I watch everyone and everything that everybody's doing, and I just want to just like applaud you and say I'm so proud of you, and I support you. And too bad I'm in Vancouver, Washington, so I can't really vote for you, or I would be, but I'm still here supporting in any way I can. So that's, I think too, is another reason why I'm like, well, I'm going to bring her on. So I'm supporting her from across the river.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of people here in the Portland community, or that watch too. So like, I'm excited for this. And then real quick, like, what happened? So what's this name of the book? I'm interested about this. The kids book too that you helped co-write.
Yes.
Like on voting.
Yeah, on voting, right? So I am obsessed with voting. I love voting. I'm very passionate about voting rights. So Next Up Oregon, right, is a local youth-led organization here in in Oregon, and it's located here in Portland, but we communicate statewide. We have a large base, and super passionate about this organization. I currently sit on their board of directors, and I think it was late last year, we was invited to write a book by A Kids Book About, they have an amazing series. They talk about a number of different things. And if you have children, this book is really, this whole series, your children could benefit from it. And it's like, they talk about the stuff that is hard to talk about, right? So there's stuff around, about voting, for example. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like other stuff that they talk about. There's just a number of different topics that are like just really difficult to talk about for parents to children, and these books make that happen. They're able to like break it down to for a kid to understand. So so the Kids Book About Voting, myself and 4 other ladies who are part of Next Up Oregon wrote this book with A Kids Book About, and it was such a cool process. Like we met on Zoom, we did it all virtually. Like, can you imagine? We wrote a book virtually, right? So we met on Zoom, and we worked on a Google Docs, and it was just so simple and easy, and we was able to like get everything out there. And yeah, it definitely was like an honor and such a really cool process to be part of. Like, I never thought, I'm sure writing a book is not always that easy, especially like, in the middle of a pandemic. But like, working with the Kids Book About was like they made it easy, and I could tell they did it like a million times, or they had to have, because they were so experienced and they just knew what to do, and they would ask us questions in ways that would give us what they wanted. So it was a really neat process, and I think the book is $19.95, so you can buy it on their website, and it's a really cool book. Like, I think
we'll have to put the links in here.
Yeah. It's a nice book, and it's really cool because people in my community in Warm Springs, they purchase like a bulk of them because they want to be able to give them out to the youth in my community. So I was like, I don't know, it just made me like really emotional when they were like, we want to buy a lot for the youth. And I was like, Thank you. Like, that's so much. Yeah.
You're gonna be known as gonna be Auntie Amanda's here every time you go to Warm Springs. You'll be, oh, she's here. She's the one with the book.
Oh,
Inspiring. I love it. So as we wrap it up, I always like to leave things on like inspirational note, and any words, advice, encouragement, a message that you would like to share with anyone as we close this up for today. Go ahead and share, whatever you feel inspired.
yeah. Oh man. I love, inspiring, like just sharing beautiful words with people, because we're all in different places in our life, right? Like there's some who are really happy right now, and some who are, dealing with the fact that we haven't been together for a really long time, and it's hard. So I just want to say, like, I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you. And your voice truly does matter. Like, you matter in this world. And no matter what you're going through, like, it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And there's light at the end of the tunnel. So, I mean, my inbox, I write to a lot of people. I'm currently in, I don't call it recovery, but I don't drink alcohol anymore. So I'm always, willing to have folks lean on me too when they're struggling with anything. So if you ever need anything, like, I'm happy to show up for you in whatever that means to you. But yeah, I just really want to say, like, I see you, you're beautiful, you're brilliant, you deserve everything that's coming your way. And I just, like, your voice truly does matter in every space that you show up in. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm sure there's more I could say, but yeah, I just really want to say thank you for offering this space this morning. It truly is like medicine being in this space with you. So thank you.
Thank you for being here and sharing your story and, everything that you're doing. And same for you. If there's anything I can do to help support you in any way, reach out to me, and I'll do the best that I can with community service. I love, well, most of us that are Indigenous, we always are like in community service, and what can we do to help everyone?
Right.
We just did that this last weekend for Easter. One of my aunties, she messaged me and she's like, I need help with putting gift bags together for the homeless. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm like, all right, mom. And then I was like, okay. I was like, Eric, my fiance, I was like, oh, and you're bringing your son. And I'm like, and then I got my brother, and then my niece was here from out of town. And so we all showed up, and it ended up just being us that showed up to help, but we ended up putting together 150 bags that, we went down to Portland and handed around down Delta Park and then downtown Portland. And it was a beautiful experience. I went and sat with some of them, some of them, some women's, they were sitting there in their tent. It was just right off of Burnside. And I just walked over there and gave them a couple of these bags that had all these different sanitizers, foods, and things. But it was, I just wanted to share this, is that, at any moment in time, we could be on the street. And in the community, in the Native community, and what I was raised and what I was shown, it's actually our fault as a community that we have all of these homeless on the streets right now. And it is, our responsibility as a community to help our people out here that are on the streets. And if you were to go back before, colonization, there was no poor person. And if someone didn't have anything, the community gave that person something so that they had something. And so I just wanted to say that too, is that, it's our job as a community to help each other and to help raise each other up. And no one's better than anyone. And that in any moment we could all end up on that street.
Yeah.
And, to be humble and grateful for what you have, and, do community service, reach
Yeah.
out, help people, do things. Even if it's, a small thing here and there for someone. There's a sense of gratitude and this like this feeling I get in my heart when I help someone. It's just, it's like you're doing that work for Creator.
Yeah.
And, you could have been that one person that helped that one person, survive the day. And so I think that, like, when I sat down with that woman, I could have said, no, I got to go. Here's your things. But she asked me to sit down with her, and she asked me to sing to her. And cause she was like, you're Native. She goes, my people, she goes, I know I'm Native, but she doesn't know what tribe, but she's like, I know it's deep inside me. And she's like, it calls to me. And so she asked me to, sing a song for her. And so I took that time, to sit down and sit with her. And then we ended up sharing stories and talking back and forth. And I think I ended up sitting there for about a half an hour with her, just speaking and talking to her, not even realizing that time went by. But I look at that time, and even if I never see her again, she's going to remember that, someone at some point, reminded, and it's that reminder that people need that Creator still looking over me.
Yeah.
My ancestors are still looking for me. So if you have that calling in you to do something, act on it, because you could have been the answer to someone's prayers. And you don't want to one day go home to the Creator and then him be like, why didn't you help that person? You had everything right there to help that person. Why did you ignore that calling? Or why did you, that call to go help that person? Even though the world wants to make you feel like you're crazy if you follow by intuition. So, and if I hadn't followed by intuition, our sister Amanda wouldn't be on today with us speaking and sharing, her voice and the things that she's doing. So, I want to say with that too is, don't be afraid to follow your intuition and act on those things, because later down the road, either if it's right away or down the road, you'll something will be revealed, and what happened and why, you had that inspiration to act on something. And then things will unfold, and then you'll be like, oh, like I did earlier, like Creator works in mysterious ways. So because I did not know the timing of everything. It was like, this had to be today. And then all of a sudden, then it like lined up with your campaign being on the same day. And so, it's like, and if I hadn't reached out, because I had that moment too, I was like, sometimes I get, iffy, or like not iffy, scared, in a sense of like, do I really, like, nervous, should I really reach out to this person? I don't know. But it's like, just do it, Rachel. And so it's like every time it's like, I'm like, I look up and I'm like, all right, like, why do I keep doubting? Like, why do I keep questioning? It's like, just get it already, Rachel. So, so I do it too, you guys. I still do it. I still question. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm like, all right, stop. Just do it. Just act on it. You'll learn later, and you'll see later, and it will reveal. So I just want to leave that with that. And 5:30 tonight, Pacific time, Portland, Oregon. Support our sister and vote for her, help her in any way that we can. And I'll put the link in here for the book, because I want to get that book too. And it's those are so important tools to have, especially in the time that we're in now. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I can't wait to see you get your PhD. And and I'm gonna be pushing you too now. I'm gonna be checking in. Or did you sign up yet? Did you sign up? Are you getting that PhD? I'm like, come on, get more, do more. Let's do it. So, and then all of you out there, get your education. My grandfathers, my grandparents always told us that education is the modern weapon, if
Yeah.
you want to say. It's the modern day weapon, because in order to beat them at their own game, you have to know what their game is. And in order to make shift and transition into and decolonizing, then we have to be educated so that we can take those forefronts. And so I do understand the importance of education, and it is it's very important, and it is crucial, even if you think that, oh, I may never use it, or I may not, math doesn't apply to being a dancer, so why do I have to know math? So it's all these things. Educate yourself. The more you educate yourself, the more you can stand up in leadership roles, and being in the forefronts that we say of in the new age of the battle, and in the transition and change and shift, of positive shift that we're in right now. So thank you, everyone. Oos, thank you, sister, for being on, and with your relatives that came with you today. Thank you, and we honor them as well, because I felt their presence come in with you. They're very strong, and I know your mom is proud of you. So keep going and keep shining, and we'll see you on the other side. And let me know if there's anything I can do to help support you in any way.
Okay.
Have a good day, everyone. Oos.